All right, it's 2 p.m. It's a good afternoon to you and welcome to Market View, your go-to source with the latest insights and developments in the business world as well as finance. I'm your host, Sifiso Ngumalo, and today we want to dive into a very, very crucial topic that has a significant implication for the economies of Eswatini and South Africa: the quicker release of goods at the Oshuk and Ngwenya border gate. It is set to boost sustainable trade momentum between the two nations, as well as countries in the SACU region, really. Now we'll be discussing this development and its potential impact with our esteemed business journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla. So you do want to stay tuned as we unpack the details of a recent study by the Eswatini Revenue Service as well as the South African Revenue Service. We want to hear from the CEO of Business Eswatini, Mr. Inathi Dlamini, on why this is such a game changer for regional trade. It's quite interesting and very important, happening under the backdrop of advance of the African Continental Free Trade Area as well as other regional trade agreements. COMESA has always been there. So how important and how significant and what are the implications of this development? All of that we'll discuss with our business journalist, as well as look at other clips from some of the business leaders around such developments, like Mr. Inathi Dlamini, who is the Chief Executive of Business Eswatini, as well as Mr. Brightwell Nkambula of the Eswatini Revenue Service. Outside of that, let's kickstart our show by looking at business news. On our first story, the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce, Industry, Siboniso Nkambule, says the newly launched time-release study by the Eswatini Revenue Service, as well as the South African Revenue Service, will play a huge part in the ease of doing business in the country. The Principal Secretary was represented by the Director of International Trade, Lungile Mahlalela. This was during the launch in Bad Plus, South Africa, on Monday.
This event marks a significant milestone in our collective efforts to enhance trade facilitation and improve efficiency of our border management processes and procedures, including reducing the cost of doing business. This TRS is a vital tool that enables us to identify the bottlenecks in the clearance at the Ngwenya-Oshuk border. It also measured the time taken by goods to complete the processes on import, export, and transit at the borders. By understanding these time frames, we can therefore streamline procedures and ultimately expedite the movement and clearance of goods across our borders. This not only enhances our economic competitiveness, but it also contributes to the ease of doing business in our respective countries regionally and as we integrate with the African continent and the rest of the world. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the study resonates with the vision and mission of the Eswatini National Trade Facilitation Committee roadmap, which is to transform Eswatini into a one-stop border, paperless and climate-smart seamless trade hub with digitalized processes, and to reduce the time and cost for facilitating legitimate goods across our borders through digitalization of trade-related procedures, which allow or promote inclusive participation of women and youth, respectively. In a world where timely delivery of goods is crucial to maintaining the flow of trade, this study provides us with actionable insights and data-driven recommendations. It is once again an essential step towards achieving our vision of a seamless trade. As I'm about to end my remarks, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to our private sector from both Eswatini and South Africa, the World Customs Organization, Eswatini Revenue Service, and other government agencies, the Border Management Agency, South African Revenue Service, the Businesses and Trade Association, and all our esteemed partners and stakeholders, particularly the UK government, who have made this study possible.
Government has issued a new 4 billion rand Protea bond program on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Now, in a press statement, the Central Bank of Eswatini states that the bond has been issued through the Absa Bank Limited. All right, sorry about that technical issue. Let's go for a net break. We'll return shortly.
Eswatini National Petroleum Company proudly presents to you the Monday edition of Market View, where business news are reported and analyzed by a cast of experts and correspondents to deliver unrivaled facts and figures from the business world. Catch this edition every Monday at 2 p.m. brought to you by Eswatini National Petroleum Company.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 762222000 or dial *007 *3 *7 hash, or you can use Eswatini Imali. And you can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any Nedbank branch using our TV license account number 119900430037. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 34050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
Apologies for that. This is our story. Government has issued a new 4 billion rand Protea bond program on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Now, in a series statement that the Central Bank of Eswatini issued, it states that the bond has been issued through the Absa Bank Limited.
According to the central bank, the new issuance is the latest bond to list under the Protea bonds segment. The statement continues to say the Kingdom of Eswatini's first 400 million rand bond under the program was issued at a yield to maturity of 11.875% per annum and a maturity period of 3 years. The unsecured fixed-rate notes program involves an initial auction which took place on the 8th of May 2024 and will mature on 8 May 2027. The bond issuance marks an important step in supporting regional African development through the local bond market. The Minister for Finance, Honorable Neil Rickenberg, says the listing on the JSE represents a key milestone for the government of Eswatini and provides an opportunity for the kingdom to introduce itself to the international investment community. The minister continues to say this program will help the country to diversify funding sources, contribute to regional economic integration initiatives, and raise the necessary capital required to meet infrastructure and developmental needs. In the statement, the central bank quotes the Director of Capital Markets at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, Reddy, saying, "Sovereign bonds are an important tool for governments to raise funds for large and critical capital projects such as roads, power stations and hospitals, adding that they believe this issuance will enable the government of Eswatini to diversify its debt portfolio and access alternative funding. For Market View, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
And that is how we end our business news segment. We just want to segue straight into our interview segment with our business journalist, Nelson Dlangamandla. All right, the business community says quicker release of goods at the Osho-Ngwenya border gate will help the Eswatini and South Africa economies to gain sustainable trade momentum. This has been said by the Chief Executive Officer of Business Eswatini, Mr. Inathi Dlamini, after the release study by the Eswatini Revenue Service as well as the South African Revenue Service.
With over 600 trucks passing through the Osho-Ngwenya border gate every single day, revenue officials from Eswatini as well as South Africa have all agreed that it is very important to implement the recommendations of the time release study. The business community in Eswatini says this is a very critical move.
The successful completion of this time release report is a testament to what can be achieved when we unite our efforts. It provides us with the critical insights into the bottlenecks and opportunities within our customs processes, enabling us to streamline operations, reduce delays, and ultimately lower the cost of doing business across the region. We are very much committed to leveraging these insights to implement best practices and drive continuous improvement in our trade facilitation mechanisms.
The border management of South Africa has assured that it will do all in its power to ensure the recommendations are implemented.
These findings highlight the need for streamlining procedures to reduce bottlenecks and enhance efficiency of customs operations. There are various recommendations that have been made. I always go back to what payers have presented. One of it is the optimization of the immigration procedures, that we have to allocate dedicated immigration windows for truck drivers to expedite clearance and reduce congestion. In other words, we will have to, the BMA and SARS, we have to coexist or co-locate in order to do this work.
According to the South African Revenue Service, trade between Eswatini and South Africa in 2023 increased by 7.44 billion emalangeni, which is 15.7%. For Market View, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Ngwenya.
Yeah, quite the significant development happening around the country, particularly regarding regional trade. And we have our, business journalist Nelson Dlangamandla to help us really understand the nitty-gritty of this development. Nelly, you're mentioning on your intro there, beautiful intro by the way, that
Thank you.
at least 600 trucks every day on our border posts, right? What they want to do with this time release study is to find ways to make sure that that time is shortened, right?
Yes.
That you spend at the border gate. What are some of these challenges that they have found that make such delays?
Some of the challenges include issues of maybe pre-clearance.
Okay.
People do not pre-clear their maybe goods before maybe they come to the border.
Right.
Sometimes you find that they don't have the right documentation when they arrive at the border, so they have to maybe start afresh, try to maybe find the trail of the documents that they want to maybe use in order to declare. Those are some of the challenges. Lokunye lokukhanzakalako kwekuthi you find that sometimes people when they arrive at the border they don't really go for declaring and following all these processes. Maybe umuntu domkhanza sekaqalele khashane mhlawumbe ekugcineni ukhanze ukuthi they are not clear of some of the things that they are supposed to do. Right. So what is very important and key here is that intra-SACU trade is around 60%. Lokusho ukuthi thina singemave la kaSACU ukhanza ukuthi sisodwa sithengiselana kakhulu kunekuthi mhlawumbe sithengisele emavela angekho kasakho. So that is why it is critical for us to have lokuthi emaborder kusheshwe kuhanjwe kuxhume. So what has been recommended lana kwekuthi asekuqinisekiswe nalokuthi even the networks at the border ibangileyo le fast in order to ensure ukuthi umuntu akahlali kakhulu khona eborder.
Yeah, Nelly, I'm afraid, we've run out of time, but I'm just hoping that maybe the authorized economic operator will not be voluntary, because it is one of the means, right, that has been proposed to really speed up the time at the border. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. That marks the end of our conversation with our business journalist, Nelsu and Langamanda. Very brief today, but there it is. Let's go for a net break. We connect with Sanele Sbia virtually to look at today's financial markets.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
All right, 16 minutes after 2. Welcome back to the program. Let's look at our financial markets today. Mr. Sbia will help us decipher all the numbers that are out today on the financial markets. He connects with us virtually via a Zoom link. Mr. Sbia, welcome to the program. I want us to start by looking at the U.S. market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. What factors contributed to the dropping by 196.82 points? We see that that's about a 0.49% decrease. And how does that performance compare to the trends maybe observed over the past month, maybe?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo. Thank you for having me. So what we are seeing happening today is, markets closed a bit lower yesterday after losing a bit of steam. So that is actually on the background of, the Federal Reserve Bank still being a bit hawkish around the information on when they're likely to cut interest rates in the US. So that's why we are seeing markets acting this way today. So what we are seeing is, the markets have somehow kept and maintained the momentum, which has they're still bit above their all-time highs, but a bit below the closing of yesterday. So that's actually on the background of, we have tighter job markets, and then still the Federal Reserve Bank is not really clear on what they're going to do on interest rates, and that is what the markets are pricing in right now.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Well, the Dow Jones is on the red, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite are on the green. What drove that rise on those two indices?
So on those indices, what we are seeing, Mr. Ngumalo, is, yesterday the markets, they closed a bit higher because, this is yesterday's data, because,
I'm not sure if I can still hear you. I think I have lost Mr. Sbia, but with the hope that he's going to connect again shortly. He was highlighting the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite. We're still looking at the U.S. markets. He was still explaining to us. He had already explained that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is on the red today, but contrary to the Dow Jones Industrial, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite are on the green. I was still inquiring about, why that is the case today. I'm not too sure if we are connecting with him again to get those insights. All right, perhaps we may, as a contingency, listen to Mr. Brightwell Nkambule from the Eswatini Revenue Service. He was also amongst the developments around the time release study. We know that the ERS is a relevant stakeholder when it comes to such developments. Mr. Sbia is back, so we are going to connect with him once again. Mr. Sbia, we have about 9 minutes. Just briefly, the S&P 500 as well as the Nasdaq Composite are on the green today, contrary to the DJIA. What are the reasons behind that?
Mostly the reasons are, the interest rate expectations. Those markets closed a bit higher yesterday. But when you look into the Nasdaq as well, it just closed a touch bit below the 40,000 mark. So in as much as it is in the red, but it's still in that positive region, and the all-time highs. So that was made and it's been propped by mostly the issue of, the interest rate uncertainty. And, the world is awaiting the Federal Reserve minutes coming out this week, according to the economic calendar. So that's going to give us a clear indication of what, the Federal Reserve Bank is going to do around the issue of inflation, Mr. Nzimande. Of
Let's just,
interest rates.
yeah. We don't have enough time, so let's try to be brief now as we look into the European markets. Maybe the FTSE 100, we saw that it fell by 34.45 points. What is the reason behind that?
Mostly that is the issue of the interest rate uncertainty, with the hawkish state stance in the US. That means, European markets have to price again that issue of when interest rates are likely going to fall. Initially we expected Europe to begin cutting rates in June, but we see that inflation is coming down. However, the issue of our job market still remains actually even within the Eurozone area where, the people, it's quite difficult to attract people into the job market, and that might actually push wages up, resulting in inflation bouncing back again. So we are trying to wait and see whether the market is going to cool or not. And also when you come to London in the FTSE 100, we saw that, manufacturing orders are drying up for this month, and, against the strengthening pound right now. So that is why we are seeing that flight with the index closing below the 8,400 mark.
Yeah, and everything is on the red, really, in Europe today. It's quite interesting. Let's look at Asia. Nikkei, we are seeing it also drop by 122.75 points. That's about a 0.31% decrease. How does the current performance relate to the broader Asian market trends?
Again, it's an issue of the interest rate uncertainty and waiting to see those Federal Reserve Bank minutes. But, the comments coming out from different representatives of the Feds are actually on the indications that the Federal Reserve Bank is still on a cautionary note when it comes to the interest rate issue. So that means, markets have to price again the issue of, are we going to see these two interest rate hikes cuts that we are anticipating right now. So what we are seeing today is markets really just taking a step back and trying to recalibrate expectations about the future. And it is those Federal Reserve Bank minutes that will actually give us a clearer indication when they do come out. So what I see today is markets just practicing a bit of a cautionary stance.
Yeah, okay, let's bring it home. Looking at the time, the Eswatini Stock Exchange All-Share Index, Mr. Sbia, what perhaps led to the share index rising by 0.76 points today?
So that one locally we attribute that to what we call micro matters. So when you're looking at the microeconomy and the trade within the stock market, we've seen, a take up in quite a few stocks within the Eswatini Stock Exchange, and that is what is actually driving that trend up. So we can attribute that to Eswatini being now able and exposed to the stock markets and, just taking that opportunity to invest. So, but however, these are just micro movements that we are seeing, determining where the stock exchange goes locally. And it shows, that Eswatini are beginning to trade a bit more.
Yeah, and maybe let's just quickly tangent into, the currencies USD versus the Eswatini Lilangeni as well as the Japanese yen.
Thank you, Mado. So when we're looking at currencies, we can say that, we have somehow gained a bit against the dollar and, against the euro. But, the dollar still remains and maintaining that region of strength, and same with the euro. So that's actually on the background of the trades that we are seeing happening in this region, propping up the demand for these currencies, and therefore propping up their what's it called, and then propping up the exchange rate. Be it against the euro, we can see that, you know, there's been a $2 billion buyout bond listed on the stock exchange in Japan, and that is what now has given the yen a bit of strength. You know, we are also seeing the effect of, you know, the wait and see fading out within the Japanese market. So that's why we are seeing those movements, those bit of losses in the exchange rate. But what we are noticing is, you know, we are holding strong in the 18 region and the 19 region against these major currencies. That we can attribute to mostly what is happening in South Africa, you know, with the elections and load shedding coming out, so that we are seeing that strong demand also coming out from the regional markets.
Yeah, we only have a minute left. Let's look at commodities. Maybe the factors influencing the price of gold to decrease today.
Gold has lost a bit slightly, and that is actually owing to the issue of, you know, the interest rate uncertainty. But at the same time, it's still maintaining that 2,400 region. And then if you look at oil, you see oil has also lost a bit. Again, there is issues to do with the interest rates, and, you know, because the news coming out might actually affect demand. So the markets are just trying to price that in and see what's going to happen in the future.
All right, Mr. Sibia. I wanted us to look at Brent crude as well as the JSE, but we don't have time, so we hope that we can cover all that ground tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Thank you as well to our viewers for staying with us today on Market View. Stay tuned for other shows on the Eswatini TV channel today. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.